All right, welcome back. Those are live pictures of testimony. Ben Bernanke currently testifying second day on the Hill, talking about too big to fail, arguing that the Federal Reserve should be in charge of monitoring too big to fail as opposed to actually creating institutions that are not too big to fail. The Federal Reserve, of course, having proven itself unreliable at best in monitoring the financial markets over the past couple of years as a result. The largest insurance company, the largest bank, and multiple investment banks. Students couldn't get failed. No student loans, retirees wiped out, et cetera, and the Federal Reserve still doesn't think that they deserve to be audited, even as they carry trillions of dollars of assets on their books held against U.S. taxpayer money. Still, no audit, Ben Bernanke says. With us live, a man who actually thinks an audit might be in order, peculiar though that may be. I'm referring to Congressman Ron Paul, Republican and frequent Fed critic. Congressman Paul, first off, I want to thank you so much for taking a moment to talk with us in the course of your workday. I know that our time of day is tricky. What is the resistance? Where is the resistance? Why is there resistance to your efforts to audit the Federal Reserve when the reasons to do so would seem phenomenally obvious?
I think the resistance comes from whose interests are being challenged. So those who are involved in the Federal Reserve System, they don't want to be challenged.
So who is that? Is that Goldman Sachs? Well, is that the previous treasurer?
Well,
who is that?
The immediate Federal Reserve Board, as well as all the banks that belong, especially the big banks, and that would include people like Goldman Sachs and all the big banks, because the Federal Reserve works in collusion with big banks because money is created not only by the Federal Reserve, but it's created by fractional reserve banking.
Sure.
And for that reason, it's an empire that they have. But those people who benefit by the system, and there's a lot of benefit, deficit financing by Congress benefits, and
sure.
Yet they're getting to the point now where they do need to look in, because they're starting to realize that the Federal Reserve is a government unto itself. Just think, you've mentioned already that there are trillions of dollars involved, and they're not appropriated. So it's an entirely unconstitutional process of bailing out people off budget.
It's not a democracy.
It's an outrage.
It makes me laugh because when you really put all the pieces together, it makes you think about moving to Russia sometimes. Anyway, if you look at, we had the conversation with Ron Wyden about health care and the resistance from health insurance to a more competitive environment for health care, such that their ability to exploit the system to make lots of money is diminished. Right now we're dealing with a situation where the banking infrastructure and the politicians who are bought and paid for by the banking infrastructure is trying to protect the secrecy of the Federal Reserve, because the Federal Reserve right now is hiding the secrets of the American banking system. Is that fair?
That is absolutely correct. And they say they want anybody looking at anything they do under the FOMC.
So here's the question. Because I think the American people are with you on this one. I think that it's obvious that the Federal Reserve has failed the American people. I think the American people understand what $1 trillion is and what, let alone $10 trillion is. They also understand what it means to risk. If I take your money to Vegas and blow it all and then pay myself the winnings and stick you with the losses, which is what the banks did to the American people. What can the American people do for you to help you get an audit of the Federal Reserve for all of us?
Well, continue to do what they've been doing. I mean, we have 275 co-sponsors in the House, and I didn't do that by myself. American people have awoken, and they have called their congressmen. Now they're calling their senators. We're up to 19 senators, and we have to continue to do this. And something will have to be done. They're going to fight us tooth and nails. And if you notice, yesterday they came out pretty hard against me in the Wall Street Journal because they don't want to have any part of this audit. So they're trying to discredit us. And the argument now is that if we have transparency, we'll cause the interest rates to go up. And that's the reason. Don't do that, because we want the right to lower interest rates or raise interest rates without any political influence, as if presidents don't have political influence, as if these companies that benefit, as if they are not considered a political influence on the Fed. So
the thing that I like about Barack Obama as a president, and there's plenty of things to be criticized about him as a president, but the thing that I like about him is his rhetoric says, I want to open the cans of worms. I want to open the can of worms that is health care and the health insurance cabal. I want to open the can of worms that is finance regulation and the finance cabal. But then when I see the actions of either the Democratic Party in Congress or the actions of the president himself, they tend to be much weaker than the president's rhetoric. The finance regulation to me was a joke. They didn't address big to fail. They didn't address the cops working for the crooks. You can't even get an audit of the Federal Reserve, who currently warehouses all of the shenanigans of the American banking system in secret on its balance sheet. What can the president do to turn some of his rhetoric into more action on either side of the aisle to help the American people, which was the argument that he made in running for office?
Well, I think he has to do but one thing, and keep his promises, whether it has to do with civil liberties or foreign policy or the financial institutions, and he should just do what he says. He wanted transparency. He wanted to cut back. He wanted to bring troops home. He wanted to protect civil liberties. He wanted to punish those who tortured, and on and on. But nothing seems to happen. That's why his numbers are going down, because the American people were very, very hopeful that we have a new president, a young guy making these promises.
I know.
Now they're saying it looks like it's more of the same.
But in his defense, he needs our help. In other words, unless the voters are pushing people like yourself in Congress, and unless the press is interrogating people like yourselves, it's hard for the president to get it done alone. I am curious what you think he could do better to get either more support from moderates on the Democratic side or more support from moderates on the Republican side to get at Fed audits, to have a real honest solution for financial regulation instead of just appointing a new cop. Why don't they actually, how do we get real change as opposed to baloney?
I think we continue to do what we're doing, and we're getting more attention on this audit bill than I ever dreamed of. It has to continue. We have to, we're up to 275. We have to get 350. We have to get 60 senators to finally endorse this. If this bill came to the floor today, either in the House or Senate, I don't know of anybody that would vote against transparency of the Fed. The arguments are so strong. But we need more grassroots effort. The president himself, like you indicate, isn't going to do it on his own, but if he sees more pressure from the people, calling their congressmen and the senators, if their congressman's not on this bill, they need to be on this bill. We need more support.
Congressman, I was calling you senator all morning. I'm going to call you congressman now. We love what you're doing. Again, continue. Give them, listen, all we want is information. We get information, we can work it out. But by hiding information while Goldman Sachs collects 100 cents, AIG supported, GM's bankrupted, there's too many backroom deals being done, and they're basically coming at the taxpayer's expense, sir.
And if I have 1 second, I'd like to emphasize what you said, is this bill doesn't take over monetary policy.
Exactly.
And this opens up the books. Monetary policy would still be done the same way, but we would have a right to know what they did and why and for whom.
Yeah, and no, it's almost crazy that we don't have that when you consider the amount of authority they have to move trillions of dollars around. Congressman, thank you.